Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we will be discuss the organizational context, which is Chapter 4, Module 9. But before that, we will introduce ourselves first. I am Princess Zaira.
I am Karen Anselmo.
I'm Joshua Nieves.
I am Ira A. Magtalas.
And I am Crystal Ann Manzano.
So in this module, we have two learning outcomes. The first is to analyze an hospitality and tourism organization internal environment, and the second one is to evaluate the influence of organizational variables or factors to overcome potential challenges in this process. So, introduction. Sa chapter daw na to, malalaman natin kung paano naiimpluwensyahan ng internal environment yung isang organization when it comes to strategy formation and implementation. Kung gaano nga ba kahalaga yung mga organizational variable sa environment ng hospitality and tourism industry. Yung mga organizational structure, organizational culture, and leadership. Madidiscuss din later yung iba't ibang factors kung paano naaapektuhan ng external environment yung internal environment ng isang organization at kung paano ito magpa-function. So, let's begin with the stakeholders. So, let's start with the definition of it. So, according to Freeman, 1984, a stakeholder is any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of a firm's objective. So, yung mga stakeholders, pwedeng individual, for example, tourist or a taxi driver, pwede din siyang grupo tulad ng grupo ng mga students or grupo ng family, pwede din namang company o kaya organization. Para daw ma-meet yung mga needs, is kailangang masagot yung tatlong general question patungkol sa stakeholder. So, eto nga yun, who are they, who they want, and how are they going to try to get it? So, sabi dito, para daw masagot yung unang tanong na who are they, meron daw tayong mahabang listahan kung sino-sino nga ba yung mga stakeholders. Ito nga yung mga customer, shareholders, employees, suppliers, bankers, community and pressure group, pati na rin yung mga environmental group or employee union. So, yung mga stakeholders na to, sila yung mga main actors or participant na malaki yung epekto kung paano i-implement yung mga plan of actions ng mga hospitality at tourism organization. So, sa second question naman, what they want. Madami ding pwedeng dahilan ng mga interest nila. For example, yung pinaka-ultimate goal or interest ng mga shareholders is yung kanilang economic welfare. Yung sustainable growth daw ng isang organization is nakadepende kung anong value yung naibibigay niya sa mga owners. Kasi kung wala ka daw value na naibibigay sa mga owners, then hindi din magsusurvive yung organization mo ng mas matagal. Yung kakayahan daw kasi ng mga organization na makapagbigay ng return sa mga shareholder owners na nag-i-invest sa kanila ay nakadepende din sa kakayahan nila na maabot yung expectation ng iba pang grupo ng mga stakeholders. So, makakapagbigay lamang sila ng magandang economic value sa mga shareholders kung nami-meet nila yung expectation ng mga customers nila. For example, na-identify yung mga interest nila at kung ano ba yung mga bagay na makakapagpasatisfy sa mga customer. Dapat din daw yung mga empleyado nila ay motivated at productive. So, mangyayari yon kung meron silang tamang salary at maayos yung kanilang working environment na ginagalawan. At dapat din merong relationship na na-develop yung isang organization sa mga suppliers at bankers para ma-deliver ng mas maayos yung mga products and services na kailangan ng isang firm para makapag-operate ng maayos. And yung last question naman, how are they going to try to get it? So para daw masagot yan, kailangan ng careful analysis sa different types ng mga stakeholders influence sa organization and yung kanilang means or dahilan para ma-achieve yung kanilang mga needs at expectation. For example, yung mga customers, community, at pressure group, pwede nilang i-boycott yung mga products at services para mapilitan yung isang organization na sumunod toward their direction. Or yung mga employees, pwede nilang impluwensyahan yung mga managers. And then next, stakeholders' interests are the foundation of corporate strategy itself, representing what we are and what we stand for as a company. Hospitality and tourism organization should respond to the interests of the shareholders because they are the most closely watched and monitored important stakeholder. So yung mga organization is kailangan daw talaga nilang mag-establish ng mga ng fundamental principle na mag-guide sa kanila kung ano ba yung magiging takbo ng business nila at kung paano nila itatrato ng maayos yung mga stakeholders at magamit ng maayos para makapag-decide sila ng mas maayos. And kahit daw madaming stakeholders na nag-e-exist sa tourism and hospitality organization, yung interest daw ng mga shareholders yung kailangang unahin. Kasi sila yung may control sa mga resources na nagpapacilitate at nag-e-enhance para ma-implement ng maayos yung mga decision ng mga corporate owners. And yung last naman is yung agency theory. Sinasuggest daw nito na yung mga senior executives at managers sa isang organization, pwede silang gumawa ng mga desisyon at mag-assign or mag-allocate ng mga resources para mas pagtibayin pa yung kanilang position and magkaroon sila ng personal benefits. Yung mga decision initiatives at resource allocation, hindi daw sila palaging beneficial for the organization. Kasi yung mga executives na to, pwede daw nilang hindi suportahan yung bagong projects kahit na mahalaga at magbe-benefit yung isang company kung magiging threats naman yun sa kanilang posisyon. And then next, we're now going to organizational function. So meron daw 4 na main areas and the first one is yung operation function. So eto, responsible siya sa pagmamanage at pag-ensure na yung organization ay merong maayos na system at mga procedure para makapag-deliver ng mga products and services na consistent ang quality. Kasama din dyan yung pagpaplano, pag-organize, pag-control ng lahat ng mga resources na kailangan para makapag-produce ng mga goods and services yung isang company. And second one is the marketing function. Deals with the management of demand by developing and implementing appropriate pricing policy. So, yung marketing function naman, siya yung responsible sa pagde-develop at pag-i-implement ng mga policy patungkol sa pricing. Sila din yung gumagawa ng mga marketing campaigns at mga programs sa iba't ibang mga channels katulad ng television, magazine, and yung internet. The third one is the human resources function. So, yung human resources naman, nakafocus siya sa human asset, kung paano makakapag-contribute yung mga employees nila sa sustainable competitive advantage na tinatawag. So, yung HR kasi responsible siya sa pagpili, pag-hire, at pag-recruit ng mga employees. Ina-address din niya yung concern ng mga employees when it comes to their salary, reward, training, and empowerment policy. And the last one is yung financial function. Yung financial function naman, ang main purpose niya is makapag-provide ng mga financial information na kailangan ng isang organization para makapag-operate ng mas maayos at epektibo. Siya din yung responsible at nag-a-analyze ng iba't ibang sources ng funds and financial kung paano ito makakadagdag sa value at makakapag-contribute sa kanilang competitive advantage. So kapag daw gumagawa ka ng isang internal analysis tungkol sa hospitality and tourism organization, mahalaga daw na ina-analyze mo isa-isa yung 4 na functional area na nabanggit ko para mas ma-identify mo talaga yung kanilang mga strengths and weaknesses. And then next, we're now going to resources, core competencies, and the distinctive competencies. Hospitality and tourism organization should first identify their tangible and intangible resources. Di ba lagi naman na nating naririnig kung ano ba yung dalawa na yan? Kapag sinabing tangible, yun yung mga nakikita at nahahawakan, katulad ng mga equipment and land. Yung best example ng tangible asset is yung yung building ng isang hotel. And yung intangible asset naman daw are associated with the company know-how and skill set. So sabi dito, wala daw silang physical presence. So hindi sila nahahawakan. Pero yung benefits nila is nag-e-exist naman within the organization. Example daw ng mga intangible asset is yung company reputation and brand, product reputation and brand, employee leadership skill, experience, and know-how, culture, network, databases, supplier know-how, distributor, public knowledge, contracts, intellectual property rights, and trade secrets. And yung core capabilities and distinctive competencies daw is nabibuild siya. It's either tangible or intangible. Tangible kung ano ba yung meron sa isang company. Intangible kung ano yung pwede nilang i-offer sa mga customer nila. Yung core capabilities, siya yung area na kung saan yung hospitality and tourism company ay nag-e-exceed ng mabuti. Yung distinctive competencies naman, yun yung area at activities na kung saan nag-e-excel yung isang organization at mas better siya sa kanyang mga competitors. So according kay Brownell, 2008, core capabilities are the most critical and most distinctive asset of an organization possesses, and they are the most difficult to copy when effectively linked with appropriate strategic targets in a value chain that begins and with the company key stakeholders. So napakahalaga nga ng core capabilities na ma-implement ng maayos ng isang organization. And then, H&T organizations should amalgamate their core competencies, including their knowledge, skills, and technological know-how that distinguish them from their business processes that they use to deliver information in the form of services and other results. Kasi sa panahon daw ngayon, mabilis nang magaya yung mga asset ng isang organization. Usong-uso yung mga tinatawag na imitation. So, kailangan yung mga hospitality and tourism organization, kailangan nilang protektahan, i-utilize, at mas i-enhance pa yung kanilang mga unique intangible asset. Dapat ma-maintain nila yung kanilang competitive advantage and maging appealing sa kanilang mga target customer. Yung sustainable competitive advantage naman, siya yung nagiging resulta kapag na-develop at naipagsama ng maayos lahat ng distinctive competencies na sa kalaunan is nagiging mahirap ng gayahin ng mga competitors. And to better explain this issue, we need to refer to research-based review na isang strategic management field. So ayun, para daw mas maintindihan natin, kailangan nating mag-refer sa research-based review. So, according to Barney and Wright, 1998, yung isang asset para magkaroon ng competitive advantage dapat valuable, may halaga, rare or uncommon, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Sa pamamagitan daw nito, magkakaroon ng barriers sa mga competitors na hindi magaya yung mga asset at resources na meron yung isang company. So, here's Karen and Selma to report the influence of organizational structure.
So the topic that has been assigned to me here in Chapter 9 is with regard to the influence of organizational structure. So bago natin alamin kung ano nga ba yung mga iba't ibang influences, pag-aralan muna natin kung ano nga ba yung word na organization and structure. So pag sinabi nating organization, yung unang papasok sa isip natin is a group of people na nag-work together for a particular purpose. So sa isang organization, may head and leader. And meron din naman yung mga workers or yung people na may mas mabababang posisyon. So pag sinabi naman natin na structure, ito naman yung pag sinabi naman natin structure, basically, ito yung mga nagko-construct or pag-construct or pag-ayos. So, next is, so alamin natin ngayon kung ano na yung meaning ng organizational structure. Organizational structure can be defined as the coordination of workflow and communication and management of authority relationship in an organization. Ito daw yung yung pag-organize kung paano yung flow or daloy ng trabaho and kung paano na ma-manage yung relationship na nabubuo dun sa isang organization. Like for example, between the manager and the employee. Sabi din dito na it is critical antecedent to decision making. So connected din siya sa decision making. This is concerned with the decision-making power lies, who makes decision, and how the decisions are made. Kasi 'di ba, once na andun na tayo sa decision-making, minsan natatanong mo din sa sarili mo na kung sino nga ba yung papakinggan mo, yung sarili mo ba o yung decision ng ibang tao for you. And may isip mo din na, what if dapat sarili ko na lang yung sinunod ko kesa dun sa ibang tao. So, sabi dito, matutulungan daw tayo ng organizational structure na maklear yung mga gantong situation by organizing and constructing. So, organizational structure influence the way tasks, duties, activities, coordination, communication, and resources allocation procedures are organized. So sabi ko nga kanina, nakakatulong yung organizational structure sa pagsasaayos at pag-construct. So meaning may malaki siyang impact when it comes to tasks, duties, activities, and so on and so forth. So next. Next slide. Several types of organizational structure can be in H&T organization or hospitality and tourism organization, which can be include, number 1, functional structure, multi-divisional structure, and last is matrix structure. So paano nga ba na-i-apply yung organizational structure or maiko-connect sa hospitality and tourism organization? So number 1 is functional structure. It is based on functional activities undertaken by an organization such as operations, marketing, human resources, and finance. For example, sa isang maliit na hotel, there are several functional departments that includes front office, food and beverage, security, marketing, human resources management, and finance and security. So lahat ng department na yan ay may kanya-kanya silang mga para in case man na magkaroon ng problema sa guest man or sa loob ng hotel, hindi sila magkakagulo sa pag-solve nun. So next is multi-divisional structure. It refers to having separate divisions based on product, services, and geographical areas. So, pangatlo and last, matrix. It is functional departments such as marketing, human resources management, and finance, research and development are assigned to work with one or more product or geographic business unit. For example, sa mga malalaking hotel, like yung Marriott Hotels and Resorts, meron silang matrix structure kung saan yung mga functional departments na nabanggit ko kanina sa functional structure ay yung mga specific na business units ay nagtatrabaho together and mayroon silang multiple reporting lines. So next slide. Certainly, each type of organizational structure has its advantage and disadvantages. Sa lahat naman siguro ng bagay na ginagawa natin is merong mga advantages and disadvantages. So, isa-isahin natin kung ano nga ba yung mga advantage and disadvantage ng tatlong types na organizational structure. So, first is functional structure. Sabi dito na it would be easy to make decision, communicate with subordinates, and closely control the process and outcomes. So, sa functional structure, madali lang daw yung pagde-decide, pero hindi lahat nung may isip mong decision na yun is gagana sa malalaking organization. Yun yung parang pinaka-disadvantage niya. Pwede siya sa maliit na organization pero hindi siya pwede sa malaking organization. Dahil kailangan daw ng cooperation and mag-input from multiple division and units. So next naman is multi-division organization. Each division may be able to develop and implement its own strategies, but it may not allow input and cooperation from other businesses, unit, and regions if each division is dependent. Again, some business unit may go into different initiatives that may not support corporations' overall mission and vision. Sa mga naunang lesson natin, na-discuss ni Sir Janry yung vision and mission, which is yung vision nga daw kung paano mo makikita yung business mo in the future, and yung mission naman is yung overall goal mo for your business. So sabi dito, pwedeng mag-isip ka ng sarili mong strategy pero hindi lahat ng strategy na nade-develop or nai-implement natin ay hindi nakakatulong sa vision and goal natin. So last is the matrix type of organizational structure would facilitate input cooperation from multiple businesses unit as well as from functional area. However, it may be complicated, bureaucratic, and time-consuming to get input and to buy in from different units and functional areas. Sabi lang dito na ang advantage ng matrix structure ay mapapadali yung pag-input and cooperation from multiple business unit. Pero ang disadvantage nito is time-consuming siya. Next slide is the other issues that HNT organizations need to assess is whether their organization has a centralized or decentralized organizational structure. If an HNT organizational has a centralized, it means that the decision-making power and responsibility are held by the top management. Di ba kanina sabi ko sa inyo, yung organization is my head or leader or yung pinakamataas na posisyon. So sa centralized organization, sila daw yung dapat lang na nagdedesisyon o sa kanila manggagaling yung final decision. So there is a tendency toward a standard strategy formation with a rigid control-oriented implementation. So dito tayo sa decentralized organizational structure is kabaliktaran siya ng centralized organization. Kasi yung may mas karapatan or yung may mas mababang position daw naman yung nagdedesisyon, yung hinahayaan ng mga mas nakakataas na magdesisyon ng sarili lang nila yung mga mas bababa. Siguro para maging independent sila. So strategy developed is the responsibility of the people from different levels and might require adaptation to certain conditions. So implementation of the strategy is carried out based on a free flow of communication and performance-related incentives. Next slide. So according to Simon 2000, introduced a model called the levers of control that aims to strike a balance between formality and flexibility in an organization. This model suggests that control system should be used in such a way that rather than inhibiting innovative behavior, they set a clear direction and focus for the employees and inspire them to respond to the strategic priorities of organization. Boundary system ensure that the employee work within the acceptable domain or of organizational activity. So ang model daw na ito ay nagpapahiwatig na ang control system ay dapat gamitin bilang isang paraan at hindi magsilbing hadlang kapag pinag-uusapan na yung behavior. So dito sa model na to is nag-focus sila sa mga employees kung paano sila mai-inspired sa pagsunod sa mga priority ng organization. Nang sa ganun is maging ganda yung workflow ng isang organization. So, unang levers of control is diagnostic system. Focus attention on goals, achievements for the business and for each individual in the business. So, given the opportunity to the managers to measure outcomes and compare results with preset profit plan and performance goals. So, dito nagbibigay sila ng mga informations or mga feedback controls. So, nag-focus sila kung paano nila ma-reach yung mga sinet nilang goals para sa business nila. So, ang ginagawa ng mga manager para aware din mga employee nila, kung na-achieve ba nila yung sinet nilang goal or profit, for example, profit sa isang linggo, dinidiscuss ngayon ng mga manager kung ano yung mga outcome or kita, kung ilan yung kinita nila within that week. And at the same time, parang ini-evaluate din ng manager yung mga naging performance ng employee niya within a week. And kung lumabas na maliit yung kinita nila, may inspire yung mga employee nila na mas maging pagbutihin pa nila yung pag-work nila para tumaas yung sales. So, yung feedback nila, yung ginagawa nilang motivation. So, second is interactive system. So, ito naman, nagpo-focus naman siya sa communicating and implementing the organizational strategy. Ang purpose nito is to promote debate related to assumptions, strategy, and ultimately to promote learning and growth. Next is the boundary system. Boundary system ay this is a statement kung ano ang hindi dapat gawin ng employee sa isang kumpanya. So ito ay maaaring mukhang counterintuitive, pero ito yung isang mechanics na para mag-guide yung company or organization at pagtiyak na ang mga tao ay hindi gugugol ng oras sa pag-search or pag-research at pagbuo ng mga plano na hindi naman din susundin or magagamit ng isang organization. So last is belief system is used to broadcast yung vision and mission and values ng isang negosyo. It tells how the organization creates values and the desired level of performance and how to manage internal and external relationship. It is related to the fundamental values of organization. So, dumako naman tayo dun sa final issue related to organizational structure. It's the informal organizational structure as well as politics and conflicts. So, informal organizational structure, it is refers to the group being formed by the managers and executives from different functional areas and management levels based on their friendship, hobbies, political views, religious affiliation, etc. So, sila yung mga managers and executives from different functional areas gaya nung sinabi ko kanina, food and beverage, front office department, human resource department, na may mga iba't ibang pag-uugali or characteristic. So, sabi din dito na managers and executives is such groups may support their group members' decision and interest even if they are not beneficial to the organization. Yung mga managers daw and executives or yung mga nakakataas, sinusuportahan nila yung mga decision and interest ng mga employee nila even if hindi naman ito nakakatulong sa organization. It is also possible that there may be ongoing politics and conflicts among functional areas as well as among different divisions, which can influence strategy, development, and implementation. So based on the dictionary that I've searched in Google, the meaning of informal is having a relaxed, friendly, or unofficial style, manners, or nature. So parang sa isang organization is magkakaibigan lang sila. Hindi ito formal, pero andun pa din yung paggalang sa managers and nakakataas na position. So that ends my report, and Joshua Nieves will discuss about the influence of leadership.
So thank you, Karen Anselmo. So, ang i-discuss ko ngayon is the influence of leadership. So, bago tayo mag-proceed sa next slide, i-discuss ko muna sa inyo kung ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng leadership. So, when we say leader, ito yung mga nagko-command sa isang grupo, organisasyon, o isang bansa. So, lahat ba tayo ay pwedeng isang maging leader? Yes. Lahat tayo ay pwedeng isang maging leader. So, paano nga ba maging isang leader? So, first, kailangan natin magsimula sa sarili natin, which is understanding your leadership style. So, kailangan natin alamin kung ano nga ba ang strength natin and which areas we need some improvement. So, kailangan good listener tayo. Marunong tayong makinig sa mga suggestions ng iba. So, kailangan din may positive and good attitude tayo. Kailangan maging creativity tayo at malawak ang ating imagination. So, kailangan mag-serve tayo as a role model. Kailangan maging passionate tayo. So, to be a good leader, we must be a good follower. So, kailangan din natin i-motivate yung mga sumusunod sa atin. So, gaano raw ba kahalaga ang impluensya ng leader? Or gaano raw ba ka-powerful ang impluensya ng leader? So, isa raw po itong abilidad para i-motivate at i-inspire ang iba. So, next po. So, every hospitality and tourism has the key individual leaders with the skills, ability, and vision to nurture and enable the organization to develop a business strategy, identify the resources required, and nurture employees to turn their ideas into business reality. So, so kahit sa simpleng bagay lang, sa school, meron tayong leader like Black President. Paano pa kaya sa isang organisasyon or company? Mahalaga yung role ng leader dahil madami silang mga role na ginagampanan. For example, merong problem sa company. So as a leader, sila agad yung makakaisip ng solusyon para ma-solve yung mga problema at hindi na umabot pa sa mga senior executives. So sila din yung nagmamotivate at nag-i-inspire sa mga employees. Ginagawa nila yon sa pagpapakita ng iba kung ano nga ba ang dapat nilang gawin. So, next po. So dito naman, first bullet, their entrepreneurial skills and attributes are particularly critical in introducing innovation solution in their organization problems in across borders. So in other words, leaders do not think of what happening in present, but their mindset is on what will happen in the future. So the next bullet is they are creative and good reflectors. So which means it means that a leader should have gone through a lot of experiences to be a good reflector. So in case that a business or a team would be experience the same scenario, which the leader was able to handle properly back then, they can think of better and good response to fix it. So next bullet is they assess the risk involved in working with foreign operations. So leader should be able to assess all risks. It may be an advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to proposing foreign operations, proper research and reflecting experiences and taking risks are some of the key points. So next is they employ a hands-on management style in bringing a business idea into successful. So they really are hands-on focused and they seek to a certain management style which they think are better step in business ideas. So the next is they utilize their creative and flexible thinking, risk-taking, and ultimately risk-reducing skills. So meron po tayong different types of leadership styles. So first is authoritative. So authoritative is ito po yung accurate and reliable. So second is persuasive. Ito po yung someone or something with the power to convince. So ito rin, so ibig sabihin po, ito po yung mga nagko-convince para ibahin yung mga behavior, action, or options or thinking ng mga followers. So the next is consultative. So ito po yung mga nagbibigay ng advice or recommendation. For example, sa isang organisasyon, pag nawalan ng idea, yung isang grupo, so isa yung leader para bigyan sila ng advice or recommendation kung ano nga ba ang dapat nilang gawin. So the next is participative decision making. So siya yung nagde-decide sa isang grupo or organisasyon. So next po. So, leader should make a personal commitment to support innovate ideas. So, which means leader should be open-minded when it comes to creative ideas. He or she should be committed in order to create a strong belief when it comes to innovate ideas. So, leaders should undertake the role of creating a supportive culture, which means support culture means you have the ability to stand with your followers. It also encompasses trust and belief when it comes to the subordinates. So they should themselves as supporter of their subordinates. So leader need to employ persuasive communication, negotiation, and listening skill in order to discover the interests, needs, and commitment of others. So understanding creates a great avenue for anything, but in order for you to understand, you must first communicate and listen. A good leader possesses and communication skill, not only speaking wise, but also skilled in listening and understanding. So here's Ira to report the influence and organizational culture.
Thank you, Joshua. But before I start, I would like to give you a short background information about my topic, which is about influence of organizational culture. An organization's culture defines the proper way to behave within the organization. This culture consists by leaders and then communicated and reinforced through various methods, ultimately shaping employee perceptions, behavior, and understanding. So, yung organization culture daw, kumbaga, dito pinag-aaralan or makikita kung paano ba mag-interact yung employees to other people, especially to the customers. Well, not just the behavior or values of the employees, but also the attitude of the owner. Kasi yung mga owner, yung magsisilbing role model ng mga employee para makapag-serve sila ng maayos sa mga customers, di ba? So sinasabi din dito na sa organization's culture, parang ipinapakita din dito yung mga values or yung beliefs na natutuhan natin from our ancestors na nai-share natin ngayon sa ibang tao. For example, may natutuhan kang something good from your ancestor and ikaw naman, ang gagawin mo ngayon, mas i-enhance mo ito or mag-iisip ka ng way kung paano pa mas mapapagbuti yung belief or yung value na yon na i-share mo ngayon sa organization nyo. Kaya tinawag itong organizational culture. So, influence of organizational culture. According to Guerrier and Deary, 1998, Kemp and Dwyer, 2001, Roper, Brooks, and Hampton, 1997, organizational culture is another important factor that shapes the strategic direction of an organization and thus the behaviors of the employees. It is a holistic, historically determined, socially constructed, shared organizational variable made up of symbols, heroes, rituals, and values. Symbols are words gestures, features, or objects that carry particular meaning in a culture. Heroes are persons, alive or dead, real or imaginary, who possesses characteristics highly prized in the culture and who deserve as models for behavior. The core of culture is formed by values in the sense of broad, non-specific feelings of good and evil, beautiful and ugly, normal and abnormal, rational and irrational feelings that are often unconscious and rarely discussed and that cannot be observed. So, yung organizational culture daw, isa din ito sa mahalagang way or paraan para mas gumanda yung samahan, pag-uugali, yung work ng mga employees. In other words, organizational culture, isa siya sa humuhubog sa behavior ng mga employees or people inside the organization. Sinasabi din dito na yung organizational structure nakapaloob or let's say na connected din dito yung mga symbols, heroes, gestures, yung mga simpleng galaw pala natin na yan is may culture or may meaning na din pala yan. And nakabilang din dito yung mga images, your pictures, and objects. So yung mga heroes daw na ito, buhay man o hindi na, totoo man sila or kwento-kwento lang. Ang mahalaga is nakapagbigay sila ng good and memorable behavior sa atin. Kumbaga sila yung isa sa naging role model natin ngayon. Next slide po. There are 4 important functions which are first, it conveys a sense of identity for the organizational members. Second, it facilitates the generation of commitment to something larger. Third, it enhances social system stability. It is a social mechanism that shapes and guides people's thoughts, values, and beliefs, and ultimately controls their behavior. Fourth, culture serves a sense-making device that can guide and shape behavior. So yung first daw na function, dito malalaman or ma-identify ni owner kung ano ba yung mga characteristic or yung real na pag-uugali ng kanyang mga employees. For example, may own business ka. And then, ang gagawin mo ngayon is mag-hire ka muna ng mga employees. And then, di ba, may tinatawag tayo na job interview and may training pa nga, di ba? Doon pa lang malalaman na agad ni owner kung kaya ba talaga ni applicant yung work or not. Kung kaya bang pag-interact ng maayos ni employee sa mga customer. And then, yung second naman, sinasabi dito na if you are really committed and if you really have good plans to your business, sure na magiging successful yung business mo. And yung third naman, dito sinasabi na yung owner is not just the owner lang na nakatayo or yung utos lang ng utos. Kumbaga, si owner dapat siya yung nagpapasimula na mag-guide sa mga employees niya. And then yung fourth naman, culture serves a sense-making device that can guide and shape behavior. In other words, organizational culture is the main guide that shows individuals how to interpret and respond to the environment. In particular, it determines the efficiency of one person or an organization in receiving information and then analyzing and interpreting it. Kumbaga si cultural organizational daw, yung nagsisilbing gabay natin kung paano makipag-interact ng tama to other people. Next slide po. According to Tepesi and Bartlett 2002, an organization is likely to be especially influenced by key characteristics of the industry which it operates. Organizations are founded on industry-based assumptions about customers, competitors, and society that form from the basis of the organizational culture. From these assumptions, certain values develop concerning the right things to do. And consistent with these values, management develop the strategies, structures, processes necessary for the company to conduct its business. So, kumbaga daw, kaya nabuo yung organizational culture ay dahil sa assumptions. Or sa Tagalog, nito is yung mga palagay or haka-haka ng mga tao sa industriya ng business. Dahil daw po sa mga assumptions na yon, nalaman nila kung ano pa ba yung dapat nilang i-improve pa sa business nila or yung mga right things to do o yung mga dapat nilang gawin pa. Kumbaga, mag-iisip sila ng mga new strategies pa para mas matalo or makalaban sila sa kanilang mga competitors. Next slide po. In the hospitality industry, being customer-focused or centered and developing market-oriented practices appeared to be a widely shared value among the international hospitality organization. Similarly, as a result of pressure from the community, customer groups, and society, hospitality organizations have adopted socially responsible values in their management practices and daily operations. Founders are key leaders. Values also undoubtedly shape organizational cultures. The cultural background of these strategic decision makers underlay their strategic beliefs. There may be beliefs about what the firm's financial goals should be, in what business it can succeed, what types of risk are acceptable, its strategic vision, capital market expectations, and so on. Those beliefs are transposed to the ordinary organizational members through shared practices, the company's mission and policies. So dito naman sa may hospitality industry, alam naman natin na ang focus talaga natin is nasa mga tao. Like our consumers or customers. Pag nasa may other field naman tayo ng tourism is ang tawag natin sa mga people na ito is mga tourists or travelers at iba pa. Ang point ko dito is kaya nabuo ang organization na ito ay para magbigay or i-share natin yung good values, beliefs natin na natutuhan from our ancestors and leaders. So, di ba kadalasan may mga mistakes or kamalian tayo na nagagawa sa ating mga customers. Nandito yung organization ito para maturuan tayo na i-improve pa yung knowledge natin on how we interact to our customers. So, dito naman ipinapakita din dito kung ano ba yung financial goals ng business mo, yung quota, nga. Anong business ang dapat mong ilabas o establish na magiging successful or yung sinasabi nga nila na papatok sa masa. Siyempre, dapat alam mo na din yung mga risk kapag nag-establish ka ng business. And also, mag-iisip ka ng mga strategies para maging successful yung business mo. Next slide po. Organizational culture influence. Company heritage is another determinant of organizational culture. The history of the organization reflects itself on the practices as a tradition and accumulated experience. According to Wilson, America plays the central role in the world. The America business system is the right system that gives people opportunities to build business by hard work and self-improvement. People can achieve great success. Wilson was considered to be more of a promoter and salesman rather than an innkeeper, more an entrepreneur than a professional hotelman. The Holiday Inn concept was to get entrepreneurs involved in franchises with a strong emphasis on brand standardization that requires systematic rules of operation. So, si Wilson, mas nakilala siya na entrepreneur kaysa daw na hotelier or innkeeper. Because a Wilson invention motel franchising made rapid expansion possible. Kumbaga daw si Wilson nakapag-establish siya ng first US motel and siya din yung nag-develop ng Holiday Inn concept para sa katulad niyang mga entrepreneur. Next slide po. Organizational culture influence. When understood and successfully managed, organizational culture can lead to innovative business practices and sustainable resources of competitive advantage. If an organization possesses a participative organizational culture, there is a strong set of shared core values about what the organization stands for. There are two, which are formation of strategy and implementation of a strategy. Formation of strategy involves setting widely shared objectives, teamwork, and regular communication with a decentralized management structure. Implementation of a strategy requires understanding the core values of the organization and it appropriately managed. A strong culture leads to wide participation and support of an organizational members to the implementation of a strategy. So sa formation of a strategy, kumbaga from the word formation, dito pa lang pinagpaplanuhan or inaayos kung ano ba yung mga new strategies na gagawin ni owner para mas umayos or mas mapaganda pa yung takbo ng business niya. Kumbaga, meron silang communication ng employees and ni owner. And then yung implementation of strategy naman, dito na isinasagawa yung plano na binubuo doon sa formation of strategy. Next slide po. Organizational culture influence. In an organization with an individual-centered organizational culture, rituals dominate the organizational culture rather than the core values. Both the formation and implementation of strategy are exposed to the risk of organization being too dependent on certain individuals. There is always an issue of commitment to and support of strategy by the organizational members that makes strategy implementation difficult. So sinasabi dito na yung formation and implementation of strategy, dito nakadepende kung ano yung magiging outcome or yung kalalabasan ng business mo, kung magiging successful ba or what, kung planado ba na magiging successful yung business mo. Kaya dapat, pag nag-business ka, tutok ka dapat. Here is Crystal Manzano to report the organizational context in the international perspective.
So thank you, Ira. So the next topic is about the organizational context in the international perspective. So dito tatalakayin natin yung iba't ibang pananaw at konteksto na umiiral sa organization sa pangkalahatan. So lahat ng elemento na umiiral sa labas ng hotel and tourism organization ay may potential na makaapekto sa lahat or to some part of an organization. So as an organization expand its business outside its national border, it faces all the influences that exist in the environment of the host country or countries, as well as general international environment condition. So habang lumalawak yung in business, labas na ito sa iyong bansa, maraming possibilities na maharap ito sa mga influensya na nakapaligid sa iyong bansa. So sabi nga ni Kim Olsen, 1993, and Zhao and Olsen, 1997, may hindrances na pumipigil sa paggawa ng strategy ang Hotel and Tourism Organization. Ilan na nga dito is yung mga political risk, yung mga hadlang sa ating ekonomiya, kasama na din yung mga pagkakaiba-iba ng kultura, so nag-iiba din yung ating perspective. And isa na rin sa dahilan is yung kakulangan sa ating teknolohiya. Alam natin na sa ating bansa is hindi ganoon kaganda yung technology na meron tayo compared to other countries. So dito, dapat na maunawaan ng mga organization mga possibilities na epekto bago sila mag-go agad. Dapat meron silang sapat na plano sa pagbuo ng kanilang mga strategy kung paano nila mapapatakbo or maipapatupad. Otherwise, it may lose their opportunities na dapat hawak na nila is nawala pa. Or pwede rin na hindi nyo magamit sa wasto yung mga resources na meron kayo na pwedeng mauwi sa pagkawala ng mga asset nito. So, lahat ng yan is kumipigil sa kaligtasan at unlaran ng inyong organization. So, sabi din dito na yung risk in a border of sense occur whenever anyone must take a choice and the potential outcome involve uncertainly. So, nangyayari yung risk na ito, kailangan natin pumili or i-push yung mga outcome na gusto natin or sumugal tayo kahit na hindi natin alam yung pwedeng mangyari hanggang sa maabot natin yung goal natin. Sabi nga nila, it's okay to take some risk than to regret it later. Kasi gano'n naman sa business. Kung hindi ka susugal, hindi magkakaroon ng progress yung business mo. Pero depende pa rin sa'yo kung paano mo i-handle yung business. So next, dito, we have three main forms of risk. So yung three main forms of risk na yon is the political, next po, three main forms of risk is the political, economic, and socio-cultural. So yung una dyan is the political risk. The political risk is the potential for governmental action of politically motivated event to will adversely affect the long-term profitability or value of an organization. So, yung political risk is isa itong uri ng peligro na kinakaharap ng mga namumuhunan, kasama na rin ng mga korporasyon at ng gobyerno tungkol sa politika, sa mga kaganapan or sa condition that will affect the profitability of a business o yung mga inaasahang halaga na naibibigay sa pagkilos sa ekonomiya. So, for example, dito is yung political disruption, katulad na nga lang ng terrorism, riot, civil wars, or international wars, and even political elections that may change the ruling of the government. It can dramatically affect the business's ability to operate. Sabi din dito, it exposes itself through a number of political events, including political philosophies that are changing or in competition with one another, nationalism, competing religious, and terrorism or anarchist group operating in the country. So even if you don't care much about politics, it can affect pa rin your business. Sabi nga na political risk is a factor can include wars, policy changing, political protests, and terrorist attack. So, ako nabasa noong 1914 na nagkaroon ng terrorist assassination between two countries na talagang nakaapekto sa ilang business. Katulad ng destruction of the World Trade Center and merong mga ilang airline na natigil sa pag-operate at merong mga na-stranded na mga traveler. So, sa mga ganong risk talaga is hindi natin may iwan na makaapekto rin yon sa business natin. Hindi lang sa atin, kundi pati na rin sa mga nakapaligid sa atin. So next is the economic risk. So changing economic conditions are also considered a source of risk. So yung economic risk in a country is the level of uncertainty about the ability to meet its financial obligation. Sa isang bansa, ito ay antas ng kawalan ng katiyakan tungkol sa kakayahan ng isang bansa na matugunan ang mga obligasyong pampinansyal nito. It also refers to the possibility that changes in macroeconomic condition will negatively impact a company or an investment. So halimbawa nga nito is yung mga political instability. Kasama na din yung mga pagbabago ng kondisyon ng negosyo o masamang epekto ng mga macroeconomic na kadahilanan tulad nga ng mga patakaran ng gobyerno o pagbagsak ng kasalukuyang gobyerno. Sama rin sa halimbawa nito is yung mga pagbabago ng mga rate ng palitan na makaapekto sa pagkalugi ng isang kumpanya. So sabi din dito na malalaman natin na may economic risk kapag nililimitahan na nila yung pagko-convert ng mga local currency into foreign currency. And then nagkakaroon din ng paghihik sa pagpapauwi ng kapital, mga kita at pamamahala sa mga bayarin. Then nagsasagawa rin sila ng patakaran sa pagbubuwis at kasunduan sa paglilisensya. So next is the cultural distance. Cultural distance is related to the differences and similarities between home and host country consumer market. So tumutukoy naman ito sa pagkakaiba ng ating mga languages. We also have a different social structure, pati na politics and even economic condition. Hindi lang ito tungkol sa pagkakaiba, meron din naman tayong mga similarities with other countries. Pero kaya siya sinabing cultural distance is isa itong pagpapaandar ng mga pagkakaiba sa mga halaga at estilo ng communication that are rooted in culture. So, nagkakaroon lang ng distansya when an individual or group perceive that their value and communication is naiiba na sa iba. So, next. So, the country risk is to be high when managers lack market knowledge about the target consumer in host country. So, nagkakaroon lang ng risk sa ating country kapag hindi sapat yung laman ng mga namamahala sa atin tungkol sa target ng mga mamimili. Wala tayong knowledge about sa ating mga target or hindi natin alam yung background nila, isa ito sa magiging risk na pwedeng makaapekto sa ating organization. So short-term effectiveness and long-term survival of organization are determined partly by the action they take in response to their external environment and risks associated with them. In particular, the organization member perception and interpretation of the organization environment and the response strategies are shaped by internal organization context. So, for example, yung mga organizational culture na hindi kayang makaiwas sa mga risk ay dinidiscourage na sila na mag-take ng risk internationally, and they would not support a strategy that encourage market presence in country market kung yung risk sa politics, economic and socio-cultural is pass na. So, 'di ba? Bakit pa sila magte-take ng risk kung alam na nila yung outcome? Nasayang na yung effort nila, negative na yung balik, so malulugi pa sila. Kaya dinidiscourage na nila yon. So, in this organization, usually sa paggawa ng mga desisyon ay centralized at hawak ng mas na mataas na tao sa organizational hierarchy. So, there is an intense flow of information, experience, and knowledge transfer from the employee at the level of organizational hierarchy who are usually local with extensive knowledge and familiarity to the local country market condition and culture. So minsan, kung sino pa yung nasa mababang antas, sila pa yung may mas knowledge or alam about sa local country market condition sa ating bansa. So kung walang upward communication with our senior management, it become out of touch sa ating mga empleyado. So sabi nga nila, 'di ba? Communication is the key. So, dapat meron tayong pagkakaintindihan sa isa't isa, mag-share tayo ng information, ideas, and opinion para marami tayong option na pwedeng magamit or maiwasan natin yung mga problema sa ating marketplace. So, next. So, in order to minimize some risk of operation, dapat tayong magkaroon ng cooperation sa ating marketing, pati na rin sa human resources and finance function para magkaroon tayo ng access and gain some knowledge and information para if ever na magkaroon ng problema, meron tayong mga alternative solution na pwedeng magamit or iharap. And para din makaiwas tayo sa mga risk involvement to other countries, dapat din nating maintindihan yung systematic approach na mahalaan sa ibang bansa or internationally kung paano sila kumilos at pag-aaralan din natin yung mga dapat at hindi dapat about them. So kung hindi natin mauunawaan yung cultural differences internationally, it might ended with negative influence to the perception of the customer, employees, shareholder, kasama na rin yung mga suppliers and other stakeholder group of organization. Lalo na kapag may business ka tapos lumabas ka sa ibang bansa, you should know your environment na lahat ng nakapaligid sa'yo para makaiwas ka sa mga risk, makakasira or makakagulo sa business mo. Kasi yun naman yung talagang ginagawa sa organization. You should learn what their culture and information na makakatulong inyong company. So for the summarize of this module, so it is essential to identify an hotel tourism company stakeholder, tangible and intangible asset, core competencies, and distinctive competencies. When analyzing the internal environment of an hotel and tourism organization, it is essential to look at 4 functional areas: operation, marketing, finance, and human resources, and to identify the strengths and weaknesses. Organization needs to manage the decentralization, organizational structure continuum in order to have a certain degree of formality in the organization, while leaving room for improvement to nurture innovative, opportunity-seeking employee. When understood and successfully managed, organizational structure can lead innovative business practices and sustainable sources of competitive advantage.
This ends our report. Thank you for listening. But if you have questions or clarifications, you are feel free to ask us. Thank you.